Hey everybody, Omega is here for another Omega Talks About Blah 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 video thingies. This time, much like, I guess that's a little bit of a callback to my first one, I'm going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance. I finished it, or I got the secret movie yesterday. I actually finished the game a couple days before that. And before I start, I don't think that in the last time I did this, when I did one for Skyward Sword, I don't really think that I emphasized enough on my wish for other people to talk about what they thought about whatever it is that we're talking about. Because like in the first one, like I just was like, hey, people, you should make, either type in the comments or make a video response. Or not necessarily a video response to this video, but a video of yourself talking about how you felt about it. And I mean, if you want to put it as a video response, that's cool. Other people can see it that way, but you don't necessarily have to. So I do really wish for other people to do that. So I mean, the whole point is to have a conversation about this thing, and not just me telling you what I think about this thing. Though I do greatly enjoy telling people how I feel about things. So. But anyways, I just wanted to set that out first. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about the Kingdom Hearts 3D as a little bit of a callback to my the first time I did a talk about video where I did it was 358 days, and now I'm talking about Kingdom Hearts 3D. Now I'm going to split up how I talk about this into two different sections. I'm going to talk about gameplay, and then I'm going to talk about story, mostly. I will get into a little bit of story stuff as I talk about the gameplay, for reasons that you will see, but mostly it'll be gameplay first and story second. And I'm not going to give specific spoilers. I will just talk about how I felt about the story, although I may refer to not specific plot details, but I may refer to like stuff that happens in vague terms, which I guess could be taken as spoilers. Like same way how when I talked about Skyward Sword, I talked about certain items that you got or certain dungeons that you went to, because I don't consider that spoilers. I consider that like talking about gameplay. But it'll be a little bit more specific about that with this one. But I mean, I'm not ever just gonna, spoiler alert, Mickey is Riku's father or anything like that. Like, I'm not gonna do that kind of thing. But anyway, so gameplay first. If you played Birth by Sleep, I think you'll be fairly familiar with this system, because really it's kind of like a dumbed down, I would call it, version of Birth by Sleep's gameplay. Which Birth by Sleep, so I didn't do a video on that. Birth by Sleep is probably, in my opinion, from a gameplay perspective, the funnest game of the Kingdom Hearts series. It's still not my favorite of the series. I don't think you're ever going to beat the original. But that's mostly from a nostalgic standpoint, and I will readily admit, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep has the best gameplay in the series. So if you played that one, basically you're getting a somewhat dumbed down version of this. You still have the command system, which is what everybody really liked, but you don't have, I guess, all the extra things. There are no more D-links or shot lock commands, which have instead been replaced by new mechanics, which I will talk about later. But you still have your command system. You cannot merge commands anymore. You can't do that, which is, I guess, not necessarily bad to me, but I mean, it was kind of cool that you could do that. But it's not a game breaker to me. But you can still, customize your deck of commands. It gets ever bigger as the game goes on. You get different decks between Sora and Riku, so you can change up your play style. They both have commands that only they can use, and the other character can't use. So you can vary things up and stuff like that. It's very customizable. It's very fast-paced when you're actually in the combat. It's very, it's cool. I do like the command deck system. I think it's a good thing for the series. And then the other things, like the new systems, they have flow motion now, which is pretty much entirely meant to add style and like flair and flashiness and stuff like that. And it's I almost want to call it a little bit game breaking, but I think that it was intentionally designed to be that way because you can do special attacks out of pretty much any kind of flow motion, anything, and you can spam them a little bit because you get super armor for a lot of them, so you can't be knocked out, and it makes it very easy to get up on things. Like there were many times where I would just like flow motion my way on top of something to get a chest. And then later on, like in that same room, like I would do something or something like that that would then like activate like a staircase or a grind rail that went up to the chest that I already got, indicating that that's how I was supposed to get up there, but I already got up there because I've tricked out on a flow motion. It's not really even that hard. I mean, you can very much just like wall jump and get to anywhere you need to be. It's really not it's really not that difficult. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad thing. Maybe, I guess, nerf the attacks, or maybe put a limit to how many you could do, or how many wall jumps you could do for sure, because that's really easy to spam. But it does make things a lot easier to get around, and that's not a bad thing, I think, because a lot of the areas in this one are bigger. Like a lot of the rooms in each world will be larger. And it does make it a lot easier to get around, so I don't so much mind it. It's there. They have a new reality shift mechanic, which I'm not quite the fan of. Basically, each world has a different reality shift, and you get up, like whenever you do something special or get to a targetable reality shift thing, your cursor will turn pink, and it'll have like a downward arrow thing going on it. And you hit, I think it's A and X at the same time, or B and X. Hang on, let me grab my DX. It is, yeah, A and X at the same time to activate it, which is a little awkward to me at first, just because it seems like strange buttons to hit at the same time. I don't know. It seemed weird to me that that would be the activation command. And then basically it's like touch screen attacks of various things. Like I said, there's a different one for each world. And I didn't really feel like it was that useful. You do have to, at least in most worlds, you'll have to do it to get around, or like to unlock certain chests or whatever. Like you'll have to do it to get to where chests are or something like that. And some of them are cool, like admittedly. Like the one in Tron World was better, or was pretty cool, I thought. And then the one in the final world is really cool, I thought. But then also there are a lot of them where that are just kind of like really could be removed, and I don't think you'd even notice. I mean, just like there's just some worlds where I almost never used it, and it didn't really seem all that useful to me. But probably the largest change is you don't have parties anymore. Like you don't have party members anymore. Instead, you have Dream Eaters, who are the new monsters for this game, and you also fight them, and your party is composed of them. You can bring 2 of them with you, and you create them with your commands instead of merging commands like in Birth by Sleep. You don't use commands. You use materials, and you can add a command to get the ability to them. Never mind. I kind of messed up there. But yeah, you use the materials that you collect, and you can create Dream Eaters to join your party. And it's somewhat cool. I mean, there are some Pokemon-ish aspects to it, but I largely felt like it was more trying to follow games like Tales of Symphonia 2 or Final Fantasy 13 2, and their kind of like monster party member system. Because you get your abilities from doing Dream Eaters. Like Dream Eaters collect, I think it's LP is the name of it, like Link Points, I believe is the name. And then each Dream Eater has like an ability board that you spend those points on, and you get abilities for the character, for Rika or Sora, off of the ability board. It doesn't actually apply to the Dream Eater; it applies to the character. So you want to, and then each Dream Eater has a different board. So I mean, it's in your interest to switch them out a lot, so you can get more various abilities, or to focus on certain kinds of abilities or whatever. and it's okay. But then in battle though, like the Dream Eaters don't really make a difference. I especially noticed it towards the end of the game that even though I had Dream Eaters that were close to the same level that I was, like if they would hit an enemy and they would just like dink off like the ever slightest bit of life off of whatever it was that I was fighting. And I mean, it really doesn't make a difference, I would say, in battle, except for link attacks or link styles, depending on which character you're playing as. Which under a spirits, or the spirits are the good Dream Eaters, nightmares the bad Dream Eaters. So under your spirits HP, there's another bar that fills up with pink, and when it gets full, if you're playing as Sora, Sora has link attacks, which are basically like different attacks with the Dream Eaters that vary by Dream Eater. And then Riku has link styles, which are essentially the command styles from Birth by Sleep or dry forms from the games before that, where he just kind of like hulks out and goes Super Saiyan, and you can just destroy everything for a few seconds. It's actually really, undeniably, some of them are badass because it varies by like a Dream Eater. And then also, if you have both Dream Eaters' gauges full, you can do a dual link, which gives you different effects from if you just linked with one of them. And I mean, like, there are some pretty cool ones out there. I kind of went back the first time I used the dual link with Riku, and he grew bat wings. He grew like Meta Knight bat wings, and I could like glide around and stuff, and it was like the most badass thing. I did quite enjoy that. And then and Sora has some good ones too. I got like a meteor one time that like just like ripped apart all enemies that were on screen at the same time. It was surprisingly broken off of not a boss anyways. So I mean, they're both fairly overpowered, and I mean they're meant to be, you know, like the flashier kind of attacks. And Sora's can admittedly be a little bit sillier than Riku's, but not. It does not, I think, detract from the experience. So, and as far as game mechanics go, that's pretty much it. Like I said, you don't have any shot lock, you don't have any D-Link. They removed that kind of stuff, which I don't necessarily have a problem with. No more command boards either. I didn't. I surely did not miss the command board. As far as I would say worlds go, there's 7 worlds, and they're mostly, or to the game's credit, it's largely original ones. There are some, as I like to refer to it, everything is at least half original. Like you do go to, I guess, old or worlds that have been done before, but even then you go to new areas. Like if you play Kingdom Hearts 1 and you go to the Olympus Coliseum, it's just a Coliseum, but then in Kingdom Hearts 2 you can go to like the Underworld or whatever, and it's all those new areas. It's kind of like that, and I don't mind that. Like I think that's just as good as a brand new world. And then really, even then, there's only 2 of those, and that's like Traverse Town, which has new areas, and then Pinocchio, which has like a whole like 3/4 of a new world. Like you get to go to the carnival from Pinocchio instead of just Monstro. So there are whole new, you know, worlds, and then besides that, all the rest of the worlds are original. So and that's pretty cool. I am glad that they, I guess, focus more on that. Let's see. Quick warning: if you have not beaten the game yet, make sure that Riku is significantly higher level than Sora by the end of the game, because and I thought this was a little bit ridiculous. And the reason why I'm splitting up, talking about gameplay, talking about story, is because like the story kind of really ruined things for me, and I'm trying to hold off on that big like debacle. But the end of the game, which I have a lot to say about the end of the game. So, like at the end of the game, like Sora really only has like one like in-game boss that's actually difficult or challenging. Riku has 5 that all took me. Well, I won't say all took me multiple tries, but plenty of them took me multiple tries before I was able to beat them. And granted, I was a little bit underleveled because I kind of feel like in this game you might maybe supposed to be a little bit underleveled when you go to new worlds, because it seemed like even though I never ran from battles or anything like that, I didn't grind per se. Well, I did grind a little bit at times, but I mean, like, just running through worlds and fighting every enemies, I noticed that I was always at least a couple of levels lower than what the combat level for a world was. And that makes me feel like you're maybe supposed to be entering a new world a little bit underleveled than that. Because there were also times where I would grind some and I would still be, maybe a little bit underleveled. And then the effect got bigger the further that I got into the game. So even though at the beginning of the game I'd only be like a level or two under, the combat level for the world, lower towards the other end of the game, I would be like 6 or 7 levels lower than the combat level for the world. But then I'd always be close to it when I left. So I admittedly, and again, I think that might be intentional on the developer's part, but I was a little bit lower than the, I guess, combat level for the final world, going in as both Sora and Riku. And I just had a lot of trouble with with Riku's in-game bosses. He has quite a few of them. It gets a little bit ridiculous, I think. I probably started swearing at my 3DS a couple of times because I was just like, are you serious? How many of these are you going to make me fight? But anyways, mainly I think if you're on the fence about buying this game, it's Kingdom Hearts, and it's not, if you don't like Kingdom Hearts, it's not going to change your mind. But I mean, I feel like I tolerate some of the more criticized aspects of Kingdom Hearts better than most people, and this game still got to me a little bit in terms of craziness, which I will talk about in a bit. But it is, from a gameplay standpoint, it's ultimately harmless. I had a few nitpicks, and but I mean it gets to be a little awkward, and like the main reason why, which if you've just listened to me talk about all the game mechanics and you're gonna be like, I can't believe you didn't mention this, that's because I'm saving it for right now. The main reason I think why the gameplay is awkward, because this also ties into the story, is the drop system, which, if you know anything about the game, basically is like next to your life bar you have another bar that slowly fills up. I think it starts up blue, and then it fills up yellow, and then pink, and then black, I think is the order. And then once it fills up with black, I think you get like 30 seconds of bonus time with like an increased drop rate or something. And then once that time runs out, you're forced to switch characters. So, like, if you know how the story works, you know that, like, in this game, like, Sora has a story and Riku has a story, and you're playing them side by side. So you're being, like, essentially you're always on a timer, at least for the large majority of the game, and whenever your time runs out, you have to switch over. And I mean, you can switch early. You don't have to wait for the time to run out, but you are constantly being forced to switch back and forth between Sora and Riku. And that, I feel, it's okay, it doesn't bother me enough to break the game, but it makes things, I feel, a little awkwardly paced, because, again, like, Sora and Riku don't have the same deck or the same spirits unless you intentionally make them, like, the same, like, purposely make them have the same deck and the same spirits. And even then, like, you're kind of, I guess, nerfing yourself because, like I said, like, there are commands that only Sora can use and that only Riku can use, and that are also pretty good, and you don't really want to not use those. So, and I often found that whenever I switched back to a character, there was a few seconds of me going, like, what was I doing with this character again? Like, where, like, I couldn't remember. I had to get used to the different setup. I had to remember, like, was I grinding? Was I going for chests? What was the story that had happened so far? Like, what happened? And, like, it takes me a little bit to remember. And, I mean, like, you're doing this, constantly, for the majority of the game. And then also, like, there are ways, and I never really quite figured out what, but, like when you drop, you can get, like, you collect, it's called, like, drop points or whatever, and you also get it for doing special challenges. And when you drop, you can put bonuses onto the character you're dropping towards. So if you drop from Sora to Riku, you can spend Sora's DP to get stat bonuses when you're playing as Riku. And one of them, which you'll probably use a lot, is like drop decelerator or whatever, which makes the drop gauge fill up less. But then there are ways, sometimes in the world, for the drop gauge to go faster. And I think it's certain enemy attacks. Like I went through most of the game and never really quite figured out what it was. But I mean, there would be times where I would have like a higher level of drop decelerator, and then I would be at it would be going at like half speed, and then I would get into a fight and come out of the fight, and it would be going like 200 to 300% times the normal rate permanently, like for the rest of that drop until I dropped back to Sora. And I never really, I think it's enemy attacks. Like I said, I never really quite found out what it was that made it go faster. I know that there are some worlds where there's just like pink gas stuff that if you stand in, it makes the drop gauge go faster. I know about that. But there are other ways for it to happen faster too that I never quite figured out. And then that also put me in an awkward place because, like, when it happened with Riku, the first time it happened to me, I was in Hunchback of Notre Dame world, one of the new worlds, which is like the second world. And I played with Sora, and I got a good, I would say, 60-70% of the way through the world, and then dropped to Riku. And then this thing happened to me where my drop gauge was going up way faster than I could, and I got maybe 15 or 20% through Riku's story, and then went back and had to drop back to Sora and finished the world. So now, like, I'm a whole world away with Sora than I am with Riku, which is just strange to me. I mean, I guess you can play it that way, but I mean, it kind of threw me for a loop. So I was like, oh, and now I just have to dick around with Sora until Riku catches up, because I don't want Sora to get higher leveled or have all this amazing stuff that Riku isn't going to get access to. So I mean, I felt the need to hang back and wait, and I'd actually just grind it a little bit and look for chests and stuff because I wanted to keep them together. I mean, you can go, you can do that. You can go to another world if you want, or make them go to different worlds. But again, like, there is an obvious intended order, and if I think breaking that, you would probably have a little bit of a harder time with enemies and stuff like that. And some of the enemies in this game can get annoying. There are lots of, like, enemies that block in this game, particularly, are very annoying because, like, nothing breaks through a block almost. Like, even commands don't. I guess magic does, but even then, not all the time. Like, blocking, or it might have just been me, but I noticed that blocking enemies were much more common and much more annoying in this game than in previous games. But to the game's credit, to jump back through 5-8 days, if you play through 5-8 days, you may remember that it was possible to, because sometimes enemies would have so much HP that you would knock them away from their spawn zone, and they would unspawn and then respawn when you walked back with all of their HP back, because they had so much ridiculous HP that in fighting them they would just get out of where they were programmed to be and disappear and then come back when you walked back. And it was really annoying. Like, I definitely remember it being a complaint when I played through 5-8 days. And that can also happen in this game. But when the enemies respawn, they don't get their health back, which is a lifesaver. I'm very, like, I know it's a small detail. I am super happy that Square Enix caught it, because, man, did it bug me in 5-8 days, and it really could have been a problem here. And I'm glad it wasn't, so... I mean, they did, I guess, change that. But yeah, there are a lot of annoying enemies, particularly towards the end of the game. Like, there are these, like, ghost lion enemies. Like, I don't know what to call them. They're like little lions, and they send, like, after images at you, or something like that. And they are, I hated fighting them. Like, it made me want to run whenever I saw, like, one. And sometimes I spawn 2 or 3 of these things at you at the same time. And because it's hard to know, it's hard to notice which one is the after image and which one is the real one, because they can send like 3 of these things at you at once. And there are other enemies, like these enemies are going to be grouped with like more normal enemies. So if you're in a group of like 8 enemies and you see 4 of these tiger things running around, and you don't really know which one's the real one to hit, and I mean, it's just annoying. I really hated fighting those things. They were the worst. But as gameplay wise, it is perhaps a little awkward, but it is not intolerable by any means. I would place it more towards, I guess, the middle of the series in terms of funness of the gameplay system. I would, I guess, put it between, I guess, after 358 Days and Kingdom Hearts 2, I guess, which are towards... Kingdom Hearts 2 is, in my opinion, towards the lower end of the spectrum of Kingdom Hearts games. And I mean, this is better than Kingdom Hearts 2, but not as good as 358 Days, I feel, in terms of the gameplay. And that's kind of all I guess I have to say about that. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, and I'm going to kick myself for it later. But I really want to talk about the story, because the story is really what bugged me about this game. And for one thing, if you haven't played this game and you're watching this, understand when you're going into this game that this game exists to set up for Kingdom Hearts 3, and that is the primary reason for its existence. And that is necessary, I agree, because they didn't leave themselves very much room after Kingdom Hearts 2 to go forward anywhere. And really, this game is meant to establish something cool and epic for Kingdom Hearts 3. And I mean, I agree that was necessary, but it kind of leaves you a little unfulfilled for this game, because essentially you're just building it up for something better. And yeah, you will probably feel a little bit, I guess, not necessarily unaccomplished, although maybe. I could definitely see how you might feel unaccomplished. But it's not a huge Kingdom Hearts story or anything like that. It's just meant to build up for Kingdom Hearts 3. But even then, I felt like the story was largely harmless for much of the game, because it doesn't really go into the overarching story of Kingdom Hearts very much for much of the game. Usually, when you finish both halves of the world, when you finish a world with Sora and Riku, then you'll get a little overarching cutscene or whatever. But you'll get one, and I mean, it's mostly, it's not too bad, and nothing major really happens if you've watched the trailer. Anyways, I guess I will say that. If you've already watched the trailer, then you already know, I think, 90% of the game's twists. And if I may derail for a little bit, that bugs me about Square Enix trailers. I really wish that they would stop doing that in their trailers, because they use stuff from the late game in their trailers, and it's really dumb to me. To use the most exaggerated example, in the trailer for Birth by Sleep, which was, I think this was a Jump Fiesta trailer or something like that. It's a really long Birth by Sleep trailer. They use clips from the secret movie of Birth by Sleep in the trailer for Birth by Sleep. That is crazy to me. It blows my mind. Especially because if you play Birth by Sleep, unless you play it on Proud Mode, it's really, or I won't say really hard, but it's fairly challenging to unlock the secret movie in Birth by Sleep. You either have to beat on hard mode, or you have to 100% all 3 kids on normal. And that's the only way to do it. So it's astounding to me that you would use clips in the trailer for your game. You're going to use the secret movie clips. It's ridiculous to me. And this game is not that exaggerated, but it's close. They use, if you watch some of the trailers, they use clips from the finale sequence, not say the final boss, but they use clips from the 90% mark of the game. They use clips from beyond the final save point of the game in the trailer for the game, which is still ridiculous for me. I really wish that Square wouldn't do that, because it kind of blows all your... I mean, you'll get excited watching the trailer, yes, but then when you get there in the game, you're not excited for it anymore because you got used to it watching the trailer. So, I mean, you kind of already know, and your hype is blown. But anyways, I'm not going to derail about that for too long. I've somewhat forgotten what I was talking about now. Oh yeah, the overarching plot. So, if you have watched the trailer, you already know all these things, and I want to decide if I should talk about those details or not, because if you've seen the trailer, then you already know. Okay, if you have watched the trailer, you know these things, so I don't consider them spoilers. I mean, I'm not going to spoil big, huge things, but I will spoil heavily advertised things. Axel is back from the dead, and is back as a human again. And that is a pretty cool plot twist. And also, if you're an Axel fanboy, you're really going to like this game, because they really, like, Axel shines a lot in this game, particularly. So, if you're an Axel fanboy, you're gonna like this game, because he does a lot of cool things in this game. But anyways, yeah, like, he comes back and he's helping the good guys or whatever. And then other than that, they really don't go into the overarching plot very much until the very end, until you get to the last world. And I'm going to save off talking about that again, because that's when I think the game really goes downhill. And instead I'm going to talk about, to go back to the drop system, how sometimes it's a little awkward if you're in the same world with Sora and Riku. Like basically, like, the way that the story is structured is that, like, Sora and Riku are experiencing, like, parallel versions of the same world, but they're not different or anything. Like, they meet the same characters, all the same characters, and they experience, I guess, similar events, but they're not the same, and they play out differently, basically. But it got a little confusing sometimes, I found. Like I said, like, after I dropped from one character to another character, like, there was a moment where I'd have to remember, like, what happened in this character's version versus the other character's version. And there were times where it got a little disorienting to me at times. Like, there was at one point in the Tron world where I believe I dropped from, I think, Sora to Riku, and there was a cutscene with the Asian chick from Tron. And I was like, hey, wait a second, I thought she was, like, knocked out or something. And then I was like, oh wait, no, that happened in Sora's version, not his. So I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, like, yeah, there was, like, a moment of confusion where it's like, hang on, I thought that she wasn't around anymore. Oh, wait, never mind, that happened with this other character. Never mind. And, like, again, it's not game-breaking to me. I mean, it's never more than, like, oh, I forgot that thing happened. I guess it did happen, okay. And then you move on. Like, it's not game-breaking, but it's a little awkwardly paced at times. And then also, there are some weird happenings at times. Like, there's one instance in one world where something that Riku does in his world, like Deus Ex Machinas for Sora in his world, and that's, like, never established as a thing that can happen. It just kind of happens, and then that's it. And I mean, it's a little, like, I saw it happen and I was like, huh? Like, that's a thing? Okay, I guess. I mean, other than the first world establishes a reason for why, I guess, they can somewhat interact with each other. But then after that, they kind of drop it, and it just kind of happens, and they don't really explain why. And it's little things like that I guess disorient me from I guess understanding what's going on. I mean, I understand what's going on, but it makes me step back and go, oh, well, that's a thing, okay, and then I move on. But the overarching story of the game is largely untouched until you get to the final world, and when you get to the final world, like, you hit a wall of retarded writing. Like, I'm not gonna mince words here. Like, you spend, like, the first 6 worlds of the game largely as a harmless Kingdom Hearts game. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. But then you get to the final world, and it's so retarded, and, like, I'm a little bit lost for words. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of good ways to describe this that is not also spoiling things. But they messed with a lot of series canon in the final world. They messed with canon from the first game. They messed with canon from Kingdom Hearts 2. They messed with canon about the organization. Like, they changed series facts, like facts from the series about what you know about plot elements in the series, and they mess with that. And I think that's really stupid. because you already had people complaining about those things, that like that Kingdom Hearts stories is so, so convoluted, and even if you get it, it doesn't really make that much sense. And like, so to go from already criticized plot elements and then change them again is remarkably dumb to me. And I did not much appreciate it. And I mean, like, most of the whole, like, final to the last world of the final sequence of the game is like nothing but this. And it's just it's so stupid, and it's a little confusing to me at one point. Like, when you go to the last world as Sora, there's a very like trippy kind of sequence, and I'm a little bit like, even right now, I mean, I haven't like researched, I imagine I could like get a story synopsis and understand it, but like right at myself at the moment, I'm still not completely sure like how much of it is, I guess, real. Like, how much of it I'm supposed to take and how much of it was just, like, BS. Because it was a very confusing sequence, I feel. And it really threw me for a loop. And then they add in some more, I guess, or they build off of some more of the more dumber plot elements of past Kingdom Hearts games, like the Keyblade, and Keyblade as in like the X, not the Keyblade as in X-Blade, which is, in my opinion, the king of retarded Kingdom Hearts plot elements. I have no idea why you would ever do that. Like, it blows my mind how bad of a decision that was. But it was only Birth by Sleep, and I could get over it. But it comes back in this game, or it gets mentioned again in this game, and like they stem off another plot element from that, which is almost as dumb, I feel. And there are some smaller plot elements that are also really dumb, I feel. But then beyond that, and I mean, they don't come up very often, but they come up enough where I was like, I don't really get this, what's going on here, but I move on. And the largely overarching plot I do understand. And again, that's mostly setting up for Kingdom Hearts 3. But man, is it dumb in places. I really felt like they dropped the ball towards the end of the game in terms of their story. And again, it's all to set up for KH3. And I am fairly excited for it, because in the end, even though they messed with a lot of stuff, the end that they have reached is acceptable to me. Like, I can accept it, but I wish that they had not screwed up so much series canon to get to this point. I really wish that. I feel like there was already room for them to write in an epic finish, an epic climactic game with what they already had. And I guess like I came out of it feeling like they discarded a lot of that and replaced it with other stuff that I didn't as much appreciate. And I mean, I am excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, they're building it up to be epic, and they succeed in that, I believe. In my opinion, they succeed in that. And it gets me excited for Kingdom Hearts 3, but at the same time, I wish that they hadn't thrown away so much of their writing to get there. Because, like, when I was playing through the game, as I got closer and closer to the end, like, I started developing, like, my own, like, little theories as to what was gonna, not to what was gonna happen, but to how they were gonna set up from Kingdom Hearts 3. Because I realized fairly quickly that it was gonna happen, or that's what this game was meant for, it was meant to be. So, and I got my own little theories, which I'm fairly decent at guessing Kingdom Hearts. Because I did it for a lot of Birth by Sleep. Not that Birth by Sleep is a particularly difficult game to guess, and particularly hard to guess its writing, blah blah blah. Speak me words clearly. But even before the game came out, I watched the trailer for Birth by Sleep, and I was like, okay, this is gonna happen, and 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 then those things happened, and I was like, whoa. That's trippy. So, I'm trying to replicate that experience when I'm playing through this game, and I'm trying to go, okay, I think that this is how they're going to build up with it. This is what's going to happen. And and particularly in one way, I was correct, but mostly not. And I mean, like, I felt like, because I was going off of already established canon, which you can't do because it's gonna get screwed up. and although I was right about one thing, I was largely, I guess, disappointed because what the actual build-up was probably not what I thought it was or what you were going to think it was. But it's an acceptable substitute, I feel. I mean, again, it sounds like I'm complaining about it more than I am, because I'm not so much complaining about the final result as I am complaining about the process that it took to get there, and how I feel it could have been better, or they could have gone about it in a better way, I feel. But it's not that bad. In Kingdom Hearts 3, I think it will probably be fairly epic. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. So, and then of course, I have saved the best aspect of the game for last. Of course, there are cameos from The World Ends With You, and it's the greatest thing ever. And I love the game for it. It is literally my favorite aspect of the game, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because and this is, nobody else is going to experience this but me. I think I'm the only person in the world who's going to be this excited for the Toei cameos. But it seriously, it brightened my mood. I feel like when I saw, characters from The World Ends With You, which is a sprite and portrait based cutscene game. So to see the character models in 3D and to hear the characters fully voiced was really nostalgic, and it made me happy on the inside, made me very happy on the inside, and I smiled so hard at some of the events. If you have not played The World Ends With You, this game is not going to teach you The World Ends With You. It does a very crappy job of telling you what The World Ends With You is about. But if you have, you're going to get a lot of nostalgic feels from this game. And I definitely appreciate that. And if nothing else, that alone warranted the purchase of the game for me. But again, I don't think that very many other people are going to feel that way. But for me, it was my favorite aspect of the game. I loved it. I feel like the voice acting overall, overall in the game, not just the Toei cast. I'm talking about it overall. It does slip in some places, particularly Haley Joel Osment. I think is kind of not outgrowing Sora, but is not doing as good as he could have. Riku's voice is fine, I believe, and he did. I felt like he definitely shined in games like Birth by Sleep, 358 Days. And he does a good enough job here. And the Disney cast is fairly good, that they hold up. And the World Ends With You cast, I also feel largely holds up, because like I said, they are technically voiced in The World Ends With You, but there are not very many voiced clips in The World Ends With You. They're very limited. So to hear them fully voiced for a change was good, and it largely holds up, I think. You will probably have at least one. I think everybody has one complaint. It's usually either Joshua or Shiki, I feel, that people have complaints with. But I think more what it is of anything is the trailer shows bad lines from Sora and from Joshua. So if you watch the trailer but you haven't played the game, don't necessarily discredit the voice acting as bad, because I felt like the trailer showed off some of the worst clips that they could have used, and I felt that largely the dub was not that bad. So, in the end, if you like Kingdom Hearts, you like this game. If you won't like Kingdom Hearts, you won't like it for sure. It's nothing game breaking for a Kingdom Hearts game. There's no new ground to be found here. Like I said, the game exists to set up for KH3, and if you approach it with that mindset, it's harmless, and you will have some manner of fun with the game. But it's not a serious high point by any means. So and that's largely how I feel about it. So I've been going on for 45 minutes now, and I feel like I probably should have stopped 10 minutes ago. I started trying to wrap things up. I feel like I should be done by now. So I do believe I'm going to begin to cut things off here. So again, either in the comments below or in your own video. If you played the game, it doesn't matter if you've necessarily finished the game like I have. If you have played the game, let me know how you feel about the game. Let me know what you thought, how your thoughts differ from mine. Particularly if you like things that I don't like, then I really want to hear your opinion, especially. And I may respond to you. I tend to do that when I make these videos because I like hearing what people think. So I'm very much interested in hearing what you, person who has played this game and has a differing opinion than mine, I want to know what you have to think about it. So either make a comment, tell me what you think, or make your own video, either as a response to this one or as your own video or whatever, and you can link me to it. You don't have to necessarily make a video response, but it'd be much easier that way if you do it that way. So yeah, do it that way. And let me know what you think. I'm very much interested in hearing what you guys have to say, and I'm going to wrap this up here. So, until then, I will see you guys later. Bye, guys.